So, Namaskar. This is the Ravi Gupta. I am CEO of Elets Media Private Limited, and we are having this session at the World Education Summit on the fourth day. And this session is specifically on boarding schools. And why we chose this topic for boarding schools, because boarding schools have their own set of opportunities and own set of challenges in this times of COVID-19. So let's straight away get to this session. And the first round of the question is that initial remarks of 5 minutes of each from each of our speakers, that how has it been in 2020 till now, and how are you seeing the next 6 months situation in the schools, and how are you dealing with it? So, and requesting each of the speakers that they can briefly introduce themselves, and then they give their initial remarks in 5 minutes. So let me start with Mr. Prabhakaran from Lawrence School, Ooty. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gupta. And it's a very relevant topic you have brought in here. First of all, if you look at the learning, whether the topic itself is boarding school and virtual learning, is it possible? Learning itself is a process of acquiring knowledge, understanding, and skills. And now, in this particular situation, the COVID situation, children have learned something new. For example, all these platforms were available in the past, but somehow chalk and talk method was very much popular. But we have moved on to the next stage in one more add-on which has come. So it is possible, and most of the boarding school has got a lot of infrastructure, and they can allocate and reallocate manpower according to the requirement. With situation is comparatively more easy in boarding schools because of the fact that their faculty is staying there with them, number one, and number two, they do have their own system of networking. So it is possible. However, the main issue is when we talk about skills and understanding, there is no substitute for face-to-face learning, because there are certain skill learning itself, physical, intellectual, emotional, as well as certain level of spiritual learning comes in there. So when you look at the real the holistic aspect of learning in a boarding school, of course the physical activities, sports and co-curricular activities, which is an integral part of education, is missing out, and there is limitation. To be honest with you, there is limitation in a virtual platform, because whether it is basketball or football or various other team events where the students learn two basic concepts of learning. Number one is how to work in a team and how to lead a team. Those type of skills, teamwork skills, is a bit difficult to inculcate through virtual learning. So that is a limitation. Otherwise, intellectual and various other issues add-on has improved. In fact, the audio-visual setup and various other platforms can be inbuilt into learning, and learning can be made with
I think some connectivity issues, and I think let us move to the other speakers, and I hope he will join us
Yeah, there
soon.
was a bit of
So,
sorry,
yes,
there was
I
a bit
think
of
he's here.
interruption. This is also a challenge of virtual world, because sometimes the interruption, the continuity get disturbed. It's a part of virtual learning. But still,
Yes.
in today's world, most of the boarding school has made virtual learning very effective, and it is possible to adapt and evolve. Again, the teamwork element, the physical, sporting, co-curricular activities elements needs to be addressed. So that is an area of limitation with boarding schools.
Sure. Let me request Dr. Vimal from the Assam Valley School, that how are you looking at this online learning situation, and how are you dealing with it?
Hello, Dr. Ravi. Thank you very much. Look, let me first give it, I think, my understanding of 2 minutes on how I see boarding school. Fine, because that's very important to understand. And boarding school is a controlled environment. That's A. B, boarding school is a world in its own way. Fine. And that world has its own culture. And that culture is inculcated, that culture is developed, that culture is nurtured over the period of time. Like you may see there are three people sitting here from one school, which Mr. Prabhakaran I heads, is 150 plus odd year old school. That particular culture, that particular world is different from where I'm 25-year-old school. Compared to that, where Man is in Delhi, and and we're in different part. So if we look at this way, every boarding school is a world having their own culture. And that culture, you when you join a boarding school, you join, there's an impact on that individual of that particular culture. And that's why boarding school is different from B boarding school, and B boarding school is different from C boarding school. So this is a very important understanding that we need to understand. That's why you feel different. Maybe there is the same curriculum, we teach the same syllabus, everything is same, but the feel the moment you enter the campus a little different. And that's why the total overall impact on the individual is different compared to school to school. You visit different boarding schools, and you will have different kind of individuals with different kind of understanding and priorities. So this is something I personally feel is the core essence of boarding school, and that's why people go to boarding school to experience that world. Because what happens, you are living in that world 24 into 7. In a day school, you go to that world, and after say 5 hours, 4 hours, and you come back to your own world. You live in two worlds. But here, for a certain period of time, you live in one world, and allow yourself to immerse in that world, and allow that world and the people around that to impact you. And my understanding is, when we talk about virtual learning, it has taken away that world, that controlled environment in which you dwell, in which you nurture yourself, in which you grow. I think this whole thing has gone away. And that's why I personally feel that we are able to provide say support, learning support and learning opportunities in the field of definitely content, and kind of content and syllabus and all kind of stuff. But definitely there's one big essence which is kind of your USP. I think that has been compromised. I will not say that we have lost altogether, but that has been compromised. And if you look at the positive part of boarding school, boarding and virtual thing is, because in a boarding school, the one-to-one connect, the personalized connect is very high. There's a tutor system in all our schools. There's a tutorial system where tutors are associated with students, and there your students little better. So that's why it has helped to deliver the content. It has helped to overall manage the situation in a much better way compared to, because we have a small classroom size as well compared to a day school. Because in a boarding school, normal classroom size doesn't go beyond 30. So your class size is somewhere between 22, 23 to 30. That's the average class size. So it also allows the teacher to have better connect, to deliver the content in a better way, and overall make the progress and monitor the progress in a better way compared to when you are teaching 130 odd students in one class and that kind of stuff. And then the activities and other aspects, obviously certain things, as Mr. Nair rightly mentioned, certain things are part of boarding, like say sports and all kind of stuff, and we miss on a daily basis. But yes, we try to cover it up, because what happens, sometimes you do certain kind of activity, and you say put more energy in that direction, but then you realize how to optimize, or say how to ensure that you're not allowing this pandemic, this whole thing to go waste. Because it's very important that you don't allow the good disaster to go waste. If you look at our example, we have taken around 51 different kinds of issues of publications, fine, from research papers to weekly newspapers to kind of language papers, magazines, to science magazine, to all kind of stuff in different area. We have published till date, from May till date, yesterday only I counted, we published 51 issues. So that 51 issues talks about, more than 500 students have written in that publication, those publication, all kind of stuff. We did around more than 38 events, and 38 events put together, all the students is participation is more than 3,000, because we have hosted 2 3 virtual round square conferences and all kind of stuff. And it was all possible because we, as a boarding school, we are a unit compared to, because we know each other. The trust factor in a boarding school is little higher, I'll say, when you talk about student, and when you talk about teachers and student relationship. And when you talk about, I'll say, the prefectorial system also, that prefectorial system also, because in boarding school, the student leaders, they take the onus, they move it forward, and they have definitely taken it forward. In that way, we have achieved a lot as well as a school. I must say that we have achieved a lot, and whatever we have done, we are very, very proud of that. We are very proud of that. And not only the parents are very appreciative of whatever we have done, but still I agree that somewhere down the line, the whole essence of the controlled environment, the world which we call it, like in my case, it's Assam Valley School world. In Mr. Nair's case, it's Lawrence School world, and Mr. Mann's case, that no, Mann School's world. That world and that world's impact has been definitely compromised, and I'm pretty sure that once kids will, and that's why they come back. They want to come back. If I may say here that, in our, we are reopening day after tomorrow, and if everything goes well, we will be having one of the biggest reopening in the country after, I'll say, post COVID. The number of students who are coming back in grade 10 and grade 12, and we are keeping our fingers crossed. We are obviously preparing well, but how it will go, still that's uncertain, and that's why I'm not commenting on the numbers of people. I will definitely, after 10 15 days, when things will settle, we'll do it. But this again talks about students connect with the school, that they want to come back the moment it's over. Like no one has said in grade 12, because they want to spend every minute, every moment inside the campus, because they know after this particular phase of 3 months, they won't be able to do that. These are certain aspects of boarding which will, like, personalized connect, emotional connect, and everything. Definitely we try to compensate with something else, but at the end of the day, it has been compromised, and we will try to say, do things which were like not possible while we were virtual learning. We'll try to do those things in coming days and months.
Sure. Good to hear that the school is opening, and we are all actually looking forward that school's open. So, uh, uh, congratulations for this. And let me request our next speaker, Mr. Sriram from the Mann School, to uh, please give your initial remarks on this.
Good afternoon, Dr. Gupta, for having me on the show. Thank you so much. Uh, as Dr. Nair and Dr. Vidhukeh already has explained, the concept of a boarding school is completely different from that of a normal school. And Mr. Vimal has explained in detail about it. So the whole aspect of a student as a part of boarding school has a holistic approach in whatever he does. So that does not pertain only to academics. It pertains to the sporting activities, the co-curriculars, the extracurricular activities that happens after school, and also the peer-to-peer touch, the way they live in the boarding house, the connect, the attachment for their house is so very important in their overall growth that this COVID has taken away that part of their life. So yes, if you ask me the question whether COVID has impacted the boarding schools, the answer is yes. But we have tried to minimize the impact with so many of the new measures that we are able to take. We have improvised in the systems that we have so that we do not let the students feel that we are away from them. The Assam Valley School, Mann School did not leave any stone unturned in ensuring that every possible opportunity that we have to connect with the students, we ensured that there was full connect. Again, we celebrated each and every festival. We had a number of events where students took part in great numbers. We did not allow the students to feel that they are disconnected from the school. Many students, are wanting to come back to the school, but again, all three schools are different. Mann School, as you all know, is a day come boarding school. So my challenges are slightly different from that of a fully boarding school, where they can, get the students in, create a bubble, ensure that is minimum, connect between the outsiders, and you can still run the school. But that may not be a possibility in the case of Mann School, with a good number of students coming from the local areas of Delhi as day scholars. So challenges are again different from school to school, but yes, we as a team, as heads of schools, we looked at this not as a challenge, as an opportunity to implement better systems in place to ensure that the learning continues. None of the school principals that I know of can say that we have stopped education during this COVID time. We ensured that the connect was there, the students were given the best available opportunity, not only in terms of their regular school, but even after school activities. Plenty of them were conducted. Going forward, I think this is a wonderful opportunity which COVID has created in terms of having a mix of both the online, the on-site, and the so-called online learning, which will be a blended model. So this can again, if it is implemented properly with proper structures, it can produce phenomenal results. And also for the individual growth of child, these virtual classrooms can be of great help, because there was a time when students were not used to this virtual classes, but today, with a great number of students being really, kind of comfortable with these, it can be used effectively in their growth in times to come. So we look forward to post-COVID, times with, with these increased opportunities, I would say. Thank you.
Sure. Good to hear that the schools have been actually connected with the students in all these pandemic situations. Like as you all mentioned that you were doing several activities with the students to keep them engaged, keep them connected, and also increase their learning outcomes. So how let me move on to the next question, and I'm like expanding the session topic a bit in this discussion, that how are we seeing the next 6 months or the next academic year also. So your like are we going to do a blended learning as Mr. Sriram mentioned, or are we looking at other forms of engagement, uh, and how has the COVID impacted the overall way we have been like running this school? So requesting Mr. Prabhakaran to kindly comment.
First of all, if you look at it, we are sailing through an unpredictable situation, and if you look at it, education itself is teaching students, teaching everyone how to face this type of uncertain situations and sail through. So the COVID has taught us one of the toughest lessons. We haven't given up. We have started with a proper attention to this. Two things are going to change. Number one is that senior classes, especially class 10th and 12th, the courses about 25 to 30% is reduced, and definitely they're all going to come back and join with the normal teaching. Junior classes like 5th, 6th, 7th, again, the clarity has to come from the government. As Vidhukeh Vimal pointed out, a residential school can afford to make a sort of their own culture. We are very independent, and once the students are in, there is not much of a safety hassle. We can manage it. But if you compare the large number of students in the country, it's quite unlikely that the government is going to give permission to reopen the junior classes from first standard to eighth standard. So those classes, how the curriculum transaction is going on, will remain in virtual and online, like we are all doing online assessment. The online assessment will continue, but definitely senior classes will reopen. And maybe this is a transition period. Right now it is December middle. By the time we move into April, by the time February, March, things will by and large normalize, and there is a positive note that a vaccine is going to come in the market, that will also boost a lot of confidence among the people. And by March, April, we are going to get back to a normal situation as far as the senior classes are concerned. Then social distancing, physical distancing is a part of life now. We all have to maintain that to some extent, because this COVID-19 is going to be here, not just for 1 month or 2 months, it's going to remain another 1 year. So maintaining those basic um, aspects of health and hygiene, focusing more on that, bringing the senior kids and bringing them back, that will work out. And slowly I could see that. See, look, I'm here in a hill station. The movie halls are reopened, commercial stores, shopping malls are reopened, tourism is starting. Everything is open except schools. I'm glad that Assam Valley, and there are 17 states in the country has already declared reopening of the school. Only few states like Delhi, Tamil Nadu is left. Otherwise, 17 states have declared reopening the school. So if everything is open, we can. After all, I'll tell you, it is easy to handle students because they listen and respond to any crisis situation. So I think it will work out. And with the senior classes, junior classes, again, it is not in our hand. The decision and clarity has to come from the Ministry of Education as well as the Health Ministry. To some extent, education is a concurrent subject, so the state government also has a major role to play. But senior classes, definitely things will roll back to normal by March, April. That's how I look at it. And again, even if it doesn't, we are human. We are the most successful species. Uncertainties and unpredictability is part of education. We have to educate ourselves first, and then educate our children also to sail through those situations. I hope I have answered your question, sir.
Yes, yes, yes. First of all, thanks for highlighting this that 17 states have allowed reopening of schools, which is a very, very positive news in many aspects. And with the news of coming of vaccines, and also the news of dropping of cases across states, we are all hoping that the situation is going to improve. Let me ask Mr. Vimal that how has imagining a situation when like everything has returned to a normal in a few months, how has COVID left long-term impact on schools, on the school education system? What are the things which will remain post COVID also, like some of the learnings which have happened, which you will continue to implement even after everything is okay? Yeah, you're on the mute, sir.
If I may say, the number one thing which I feel that the biggest advantage, the biggest positive of COVID is there was a huge digital divide. If you look at Indian education system, if you look at our schools, and and the reluctance, because there are different, say, teachers in different age group. Fine, you will always find in a school that 25 to 35% teacher, they are techno savvy, they were kind of working on computers, and others were either they were thinking we will manage without technology, and or we are at the fag end of our career last 3 4 years, why I need to bother about learning new things. But what technology have, what this pandemic has done, I personally feel, they have like forced people to build their capacity. And overall, the capacity building which has happened in this 9 months is phenomenal. Every, I personally feel that every teacher, every individual associated with education has grown as a person, as a professional, and their understanding over and their ability, their capacity has grown in terms of handling, say, technology, in terms of blending technology with their other stuff of work, whatever they were doing, and they are keen. And now what has happened is, this whole experience has brought keenness in people. Like at present, they are very at fag, and but still we got an opportunity to work with University of Pennsylvania, the education college, to kind of work on online teaching and the new method. I was thinking, 30 odd teachers or 25 odd teachers will volunteer, but out of 100, more than 60 65 teachers volunteered to attend that program for 7 days, or almost 4 hours a day. So this brought that keenness, the new energy which came into education system, and which we always say that people did B.Ed and certain kind of stuff, and then after that they're stuck in their timeline that they don't want to grow. And I think this pandemic has ensured that everyone realizes that you need to remain relevant. If you are not relevant in the system, maybe the system or the time, you will phase out, you won't remain there. So I think this is the biggest learning, and this is the biggest takeaway from pandemic as far as this particular the teachers are concerned. And if you look at the schools like us, we are situated a little far off from the places, and it has allowed us, I personally feel that no, to recreate or say reimagine our inter-school events. Fine. I just give you an example. We used to conduct an art school art event every year. We call it Srijaniham. On an average, 10 to 12 schools would to participate. Per school, around 10 to 12 students. Total participation is around 150 odd students, plus our inside 50 odd students. Total, 200 students. This time, because it was online, we did it through online. We got 43 schools. We got around 800 plus students participant. We got around 1700 entries from different kind of students, and it has gone beyond proportion. So it kind of gives us the trust and the belief that we need to reimagine our inter-school events, and we need to, as Mr. Sriram rightly mentioned, that he is to be blended. You can reimagine. You can always now give an option to teams that you would like to participate offline or online mode. Like we can go for debates like this. We can go for debates like Ooty. But then it takes time. But if it's online happening, my team can still, a school can participate in MUN event because the big event, and people can participate. So I think the biggest takeaway for schools here is to reimagine inter-school events, to reimagine engagement with other schools. And if we take it forward, obviously there are some sports, some other events which need physical presence. But if we cannot take in the, especially in the creative sphere, and if we take that learning, that will be great. Now coming back to the third part, that is classroom teaching and classroom aspect. And I personally feel it is again something, and Mr. Sriram rightly mentioned, especially for the weaker students, like say you have attended a class and you didn't get those things in that class at that moment. But now we are recording the whole class. It is available in your Google Drive. It's available in your Google Classroom. You can revisit that class anytime, any moment, and n number of times. So that kind of support, which we always saying, okay, how to support our students, how to support learning. Now it has given the opportunity for the whole school to see, okay, it can be done like this. And that's why I feel that the physical way, where physical and digital and the blended concept, it must continue. We must continue with that, but ensure that it should be in the complementary nature. What happens in our excitement, sometimes we make it in the supplementary nature. When I say supplementary, that means either or. It's like either you can have coffee or you can have cold drink. You can't have it together. And I think that technology needs to go hand in hand, where it's like samosa and chai. It
No,
adds
no,
value.
it's like cold coffee.
Yeah. It's overall it's add value to the life rather than kind of replacing something. So physical space and physical things can't be replaced, but it will add more value, this whole digital thing, if we take it forward in a sensible manner.
Fantastic. I think great inputs, Dr. Vimal. And may I request Mr. Sriram to also mention how do you see the short-term and long-term impacts of this COVID situation on your school, like after like everything becomes normal? What would have what are the lessons for you?
See, as far as the short-term goals are concerned, I think we are somewhere towards the end of this academic year. In the senior classes, especially the board classes, in most schools, I believe that the syllabus has been taken care of, and it's a time for the students to have a lot of written practice, which unfortunately, this year there was a great lacking from the student side. because of this, nature of this interaction or the transaction that we had. So the right now the emphasis should be on ensuring that those uh, pitfalls or those gray areas where the students require more support, they are to be supported there. I'm talking of the senior classes, and ensure that their written skills are manifested in the right form so that they can do a proper, or they can take the board exam in the proper spirit. In terms of the rest of the classes, there is a lot of non-academic learning that can happen and has happened over the years, especially in the primary section. A lot of role play activities and so on and so forth, which again very much connected with the curriculum. The learning happened through a number of activities that the school and the students were able to perform. So that can continue for the time being until the end of the year. We hope and look forward to an early vaccine that comes in so that the schools can physically reopen. In the long term, of course, what COVID has done is to open a new paradigm in the way education can be transacted. So there are students who, a many number of students these days, who go in for these special classes in terms of coaching for various entrance exams like IIT, AIEEE, and so on and so forth. Now for that they had to go to a coaching center, which involved a lot of access, reaching the center and so on and so forth. Now these things can be organized virtually, since the medium is now very much effective. That is one aspect which can be looked into. Also, those students who were differently abled, who required this additional support in terms of what has been already transacted in the classroom, they can look forward to these additional virtual classes sometime in the evening, where they don't have to come back to the school. They can sit at home and take these classes. And of course, as Vidhukeh said, these lectures, even the ones that are being done by the teachers during the school time, can be recorded and can be a repository for times to come, wherein not only now, but even for the years to come, these can be used as backup material for the students to look up to whenever they encounter any problem. One other area here, which is going to be, in fact, it's prevalent rather very much today, is the concept of personalized instruction. We have a number of portals offering personalized instruction where they give the students an opportunity to learn at their own pace. So this is something which has caught up of late. Virtual learning, this platform of online learning can go a great way in terms of helping the students achieve their personalized instructions in a way that they can help them maximize their potential. So these are some of the things that it comes to my mind in terms of what we can look forward to in times ahead. A good mix of, a potent mix of both on-site and online education can bring in wonders and can even strengthen the entire educational system with those gray areas that have been prevailing in our society all this while.
Sorry. Yeah, excellent inputs, Mr. Sriram. And as you mentioned about this important aspect of, first of all, repository of all the classes the school has and can be used later, and also the aspect of the coaching industry, which is a huge aspect in the Indian education system. And I can I'm in Noida, and I can see here that so many people like drivers like taking students, or mothers, or fathers like taking students
Yes,
to the
yes,
coaching center, people waiting there, bringing in like logistics. So
yes.
this is all changing because
Dr.
of this.
Ravi, it also gives an opportunity for the existing teachers to master these skills and be an additional support. You see, when the teacher changes between what is being taught in the school and to a teacher outside, there is always a mismatch which happens from for the students to adjust to his nature of teaching. Now, if the same teachers who teach in the class, so these are basically extended concepts what are being taught in the class, that one is taught for when a student prepares for an AI triple E or an IIT JE exam. So if the same resource can master these skills, it can be a fantastic mechanism for the teachers as well to upgrade themselves into mechanisms for providing greater supports to students, other than the normal academic calendar which they are as such required to do.
Sure. And let me ask a last round of question to our panelists, and it is a bit of a provocative question. So please don't get offended. Just it's like just to provoke. So is COVID-19 can be seen as a blessing in disguise for transformation of school education system? So that's the question to provoke each of us. Like, is it a catalyst for a change of school education system uh, in India or abroad or all over the place? Mr. Prabhakaran.
Okay. See, look, first of all, we have an ability to adapt and evolve. That much I can fully agree. And we have learned new techniques and skills. And we also made the best use of whatever is available. But at the same time, I do have my doubt, being honest with you, because online education, virtual teaching is fine. And one important aspect of education is called assessment. How efficient and how effective our assessment during these months, they're not very clear about it. At least we have done 2 to 3 assessment. It went on well, traditional way. We live in trust, we work in trust. But however, the effectiveness and efficacy of assessment need to be checked thoroughly. Then only we can say whether this platform has really helped us. However, it's a substitute, the best possible substitute. At the moment, we made the best use of it. Then it also taught us, right, like what I mentioned, it uncertainty. We can't just live in our comfort zone. We can't say that, keep on making the classroom some schedule one after other, repeating the same last years. No, there is a situation where things can go out of gear. One has to prepare. And that ability to see and sail through the uncertainty has made a positive change. And as far as teaching and learning is concerned, as Vidhukeh and Mr. Srinivasan mentioned it, that each school has got its own needs, its own learning environment, and that learning environment can be explained, can be learned only in that situation. There is no substitute through a screen or through an electronic media. And I'm looking forward that they come back to that cultural setup. Boarding schools are basically a cultural environment exists there, and that more than whatever CBSE, ICSE, or IGCSE says, these schools has got their own curriculum, internal curriculum, dominated by physical, intellectual, emotional, teamwork building activities. So that has to come when the children come back. But we have learned a tough lesson that even if such uncertainty comes, we can manage it. But the biggest challenge right now is when the children come back after the prolonged vacation, there will be some sort of withdrawal symptom, both staff and students, and it will take some time to normalize. But again, if it is just an academic learning and intellectual learning, there is no issue with virtual platform. When it add on to various other skills, there is a limitation. But it has taught us how to adapt and evolve. In that way, it's a great lesson learned. Thank you, Dr. Ravi Gupta.
Thank you, Mr. Prabhakaran. I think you have given the right perspective, balanced perspective on this question. Requesting Dr. Vimal to comment on this.
Thank you, Dr. Ravi. Look, if we look at this particular issue in a broader aspect, not only in one particular school, and in a broader aspect, like if I say take it like Indian society, if I take it like a whole country, the certain things definitely are the added benefit. If you look at that space, the quality of education is always biggest challenge as far as delivery of education is concerned to the remotest part of this country, right? And it has given us an opportunity to rethink and reimagine that, okay, you can provide the best possible education, the best possible resource material to the remotest part in this country anywhere. And that's why if we say like normally if I this is my again understanding totally that you create a digital say learning where you recruit as a central agency, like the way you recruit for Kendriya Vidyalaya, you recruit for Navodaya, you recruit people at the district level, you recruit people at the state capital level, you recruit people at the central level, that the way you have NCRT, just to create content for the online teaching, and you teach from there, and that content goes to all schools and all government schools everywhere in this country. And then you support from back end, from the other side, you give people that kind of machine, that kind of things, small big whatever, so that the whole divide of having a quality information and quality learning experience, it can be covered definitely, and it has given us the hope. Because I know in such a short span of time, if we can cover so much distance, if we can deliver so much, think about it. If government comes within a policy, they deliberate upon it, and they put it in practice over the period of time, but it requires that willingness and that foresightness that I can see future like this. Because this is the new normal. Life will not go back to the old practice. We all need to understand that's the most important aspect. This is how I see. That's A part. B part, I personally feel this COVID also has given us the opportunity to, as a society, to see certain things hidden. That as a society, what is your priority? And unfortunately, I'll say this is a very unfortunate situation that as a society we haven't shown that education is our first priority. That's why, and your belief that okay, nothing is happening. As Mr. Sriram said, every school, every principal, every teacher, every staff has put in so much of effort, but still there are n number of cases in happening in high courts. There are n number of things happening all around in the country. People are saying we will not pay the fees, we will not do this, we will not do that. Though it's not about the fees factor, it's about your priority, your understanding of education as a society, that you feel that till this hasn't happened, that's why education hasn't happened, learning hasn't happened. But you ask every teacher the number of hours that particular person has put in, that is a huge thing. So I personally feel as a society we need to reflect that what is where is the conflict. Like, think about it. We are the same society, we say that Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu. Now we are the same society where people are saying no, we will not pay Guruji, thank you very much. We are not going to pay to the school, we are not going to pay. Obviously we have our fund, but there are n number of schools in this country who has suffered drastically over the period of time. And I feel that as society, as parents, because you are getting things whatever possible, as Mr. Nair said, whatever best thing possible during this pandemic, you got it. But when it comes to your responsibility, your part, you have hidden under all kind of wrappers. Fine, from this hasn't happened or that hasn't happened. So I personally feel, don't wrap your emotions into different things in terms of this law, this regulation. It's all about how you look at education, where it is in terms of your priority number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Bars can open, everything can function, you can pay for anything and everything, but unfortunately you don't have money to pay for, say, your school fees, your children's fees, which is the like kind of setting the future for your child. So that's very, very important. And if you ask me, as a school, we as a school has grown tremendously, and I feel that over the period of time our learning has taken us to the next level. And definitely the learnings which we manage over the period of time will add value as a school, which it will add value to us, it will add value overall. The learning experience will be different, and overall at the end of the day we all, because many times what happens, we are you go with your own pace. Sometimes it's just you're running. If I give an analogy, you are running with your own pace, but the dog is after you. You start running a little faster. That's exactly because we were trying to cope up with the COVID thing. Some issues are following you, and you wanted to remain ahead of that time. So we have covered much distance in the short span of time. And I think this is the biggest learning from this COVID. But yes, overall, I think at the policy level and at society level, we need to reflect and think, and then again reimagine education.
Dr. Vimal, thanks for highlighting this aspect of small schools, low-cost schools, who have suffered big time in this pandemic, and several reports are there that many of the schools have closed, the small ones, and it reflects on our society, as you like rightly pointed out that people are ready to pay for everything else and except the education. It's so funny, and so many media campaign were run to not to pay the fees, and so it is very well, shameful actually, as a society, that we have taken teachers and education for granted. So that's also like reflects whenever a crisis happens, it exposes all the strengths, and it also exposes the weakness of the system, and it has rightly been exposed. Actually, we all have been exposed. So requesting Mr. Sriram to give your comments on this topic.
You specifically asked about the opportunities and challenges and what COVID has taught us. I think it basically depends from school to school how they, reacted to this situation. But largely, if I speak about the whole set of education industry per se, I think the opportunities outweigh the challenges. When I speak about opportunities, two big learning. One, as Dr. Vimal rightly said, uh, the teachers skilling up of the teachers to take up the so-called the technical deficiencies that they had, which has been a long struggle for many schools, was done in a swift manner within 9 months. So this is a big learning. It would have taken years together for us to bring them to this level, but I think this COVID taught us a shortcut way, I would rather say, to make them enabled within no time. This is one big advantage. The second one is the number of challenges that it has opened up. In terms, some I've already discussed in terms of blended learning, in terms of personalized instruction, the kind of the 21st century skills that came into fore, the collaboration. I mean, many schools, like Mr. Vimal said, they collaborated with so many schools for various competitions. Wouldn't have happened if we have not had this COVID. I don't think so, frankly speaking. So collaboration, the kind of creativity, critical thinking skills that came up to the fore, not only from students but from the staff, all these are great lessons that has been learned. And I think the opportunities that was provided by this was definitely greater. In terms of challenges, one big problem was that of what Dr. Nair said in terms of assessing the children. That was a gray area, and it will remain a gray area in terms of virtual learning. The social and the emotional connect of students, which is so very integral to the life of a child as he grows into a good human being. That was again a challenge which we could not address during this period. The last but not the least, the fee payment issue by the parents. I'm sorry to say this has been a big bane in this whole opportunity which we had, where we could have built up a big trust between parents and the school. Somehow that did not happen in many cases. Even today, many schools are struggling uh, to get the fees paid by the parents. I mean, the outlook towards education has changed, especially with boarding schools. Boarding school is not just about education; it's about so many other things that are not written in any piece of paper. You can't quantify it, or you cannot say that this is what is expected out of a boarding school. So to give a outlook to it, to say that only we get education so we pay only the tuition fee, is the most ridiculous thing I can hear from the teachers, I mean from the parents. But overall, I wish to take this opportunity to salute all the teachers and the people connected with the education industry for putting it up with this pandemic and coming out with flying colors. Hats off to them. Thank you so much, Dr. Gupta, for this opportunity.
Pleasure. I think, as you have rightly pointed out, that for more than a decade, IT has been tried to be introduced in schools, and it has been at a very difficult journey of IT implementation in school. But I think in these challenging times, it was surprising and amazing that teachers who don't even know well to how to use computers, like simple computers things, and they actually rose to the occasion. They
Yes.
learned the softwares overnight in a week's time or a month's time, and like they are teaching, and we are also seeing happening in all over the country. The small schools, the medium-sized schools or large schools, like across the board, it's a hats off to the teachers and hats off the school administrators. Like think about it, that if these teachers would not have risen to the occasion, the school management wouldn't have risen to the occasion, lakhs of children across the country would have remained uneducated and lost a year. And this all happened without any government support. Right? So this is amazing.
You're absolutely right. Thank you very much for bringing that beautiful point.
Uh, so, so
In fact,
Prabhakaran ji,
Mr. Dr. Ravi, if I may just ask with your, may I just say something with your permission?
yeah, sure.
Yeah, I think one set of people which needs to be, in fact, appreciated also. When we say teachers, I think our admin team, our support team, our system admin team, especially those who are looking after all these backhand people, backstage people, fine. They have like trained, because the amount of energy and time they have invested in training people, like sorting small dots, having the loads of patience in them, where they have worked with every individual teacher and helped them. They need to be commended for this, because that's huge amount of patience, because there's a person who's at the bottom of the information level, and exactly everything, and then the kind of questions comes to you, and the repetitive question, the same question will come next day, then the next day, and then the next day, and
Yes,
loads of patience they have shown. So salute to those system admin guys and the guys who looked at all these things at the back end, because without their support it won't happen possible at all.
yes. So, requesting each of the panelists to give their closing remarks, requesting this closing remarks and way forward the outlook you see. Mr. Prabhakaran, over to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gupta. You brought a very beautiful point towards end of it. Without any external support or any support, we we mobilized our resources and get it going. That is something good, and it will continue to happen with COVID or without COVID. And also, a lot of educational agencies and people working like you in the education system has also contributed a lot in supporting this type of online learning. For example, I wouldn't have got an opportunity to talk to my colleagues, my co-headmasters in various organizations without a platform provided by people like you, like elites and that. So apart from us, various organizations like yours also contributed boosting up and also getting this teamwork going. That is very good. But again, certain practices like social distancing, health and hygiene, a blended learning system will continue. And I am a very positive person. And still, I firmly believe that another 2 to 3 months, at least for senior, secondary and senior secondary level, things will roll back to normal. And whatever we have picked up from the online platforms and those best practices will add on to the conventional or innovative methods of teaching in the classroom. And hope to see you after 2 to 3 months when things open up. And I also take this opportunity to thank you, and various organizations like yours have chipped in at that point of time, taking feedback from us, giving it to the public. That's an amazing work. That also should continue. We should not close down that also with
Yes.
COVID, clearing up. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhakaranji. I think thanks for highlighting this aspect also of like interaction with each of the peers, which is also a very, very important area of peer learning and peer networking. Uh, Requesting Dr. Vimal to give your closing remarks.
I'll say number one, look, as a school and as education sector, we are definitely grown, and we should not forget this time, because sometimes you need to remember your toughest time to get strength when you are facing challenge in future. So I think we should not forget this time. We must remember this time, and again when you are in doubt, because it gives you self belief. That as and when you are in doubt, you look at this time and say, oh, we have done it at that time, we can do it again. And this is how you grow as a school. This is how you grow as a person. That's very, very important. That's A aspect. B aspect, I personally feel the most important learning is that everyone, all of us need to understand and know that, whatever things we used to think that they are very important part of our education system, this pandemic has taught that certain things are not that important. Fine, still learning may happen. And one such thing is n number of exams. Obviously assessment are very important things, but I'm saying n number of assessment, n number of things, how much that thing is important, and how to look at assessment. I think the learning is, we need to reimagine this whole assessment system, what we want to assess, and how we want to assess. That's something again is future thing. And I feel that the companies, the techno partners, and they can play a very important role in helping schools in reimagining this whole assessment part, to make it more, I'll say, foolproof, to make it more effective, so that the integrity also not compromised and other things are not compromised. That's very important. And the third part I'll say is, we need to think about, are we teaching students or are we teaching subjects? Because many schools, many teachers, they focus on teaching subjects. And I personally feel that we need to shift our this orientation, that we are teaching students, not subject. Because the moment you start teaching students, you worry about their emotional and social well-being, you worry about their progress, and it becomes individual learning profile and individual learning thing. This again we learned during this COVID time, and everyone has been like, because now you're worried about individuals performance, individuals engagement, and it has given through the windows only, but it has given the teachers the chance to engage with students rather than too much in subject part. So this is something, very important aspect, and I feel that as a school we need to think on this part. But at the end of the day, I think the road ahead is and the time ahead is very, very positive for Indian education system, because we have, like, you fill that divide, you have covered so much distance. But then we should not, like, tortoise, or say like the rabbit, we should not go and sit at some corner. Okay, oh, we have covered this much distance, now we need not to do it. I think this is an ongoing thing, and we must keep engaging. And as you rightly, Mr. Nair rightly mentioned, this has again given us a new platform to engage with co-educators, because they haven't mentioned, like, these two, I have worked with these two under them, and with them they are my senior colleagues in two different college schools from Doon and Mio. But the point is, you never get the opportunity to meet such people again in your life when you move ahead. But platforms like you have given us the opportunity to listen to each other, to learn from each other, to to hear their best practices and implement some of them. I think these kind of things must continue, and you guys have played a very important role. And thank you very much for creating such opportunities for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Vimalji. Thanks for acknowledging our work. Let me request Mr. Sriram to give his closing remarks.
Well, Dr. Gupta, I think the one point that defined how the schools reacted, or was able to overcome the challenges created by this pandemic, is the fact that how well they were prepared to face this. So my advice to all the stakeholders, all the educators, is that we should be very well prepared. So we don't know what is there in future for us. I certainly don't expect another pandemic to hit us, but it can be a different kind of a disruption. We should be able to work from now on to have a plan B, a plan C, that if such interruptions come, how will we face it and how to, kind of overcome it. If we are, well prepared in that area, we will be better, be able to face it. This is number one. Number two, as Vidhukeh said, lifelong learning is something which has to be embedded in everyone across the spectrum, be it the the school principal or the teacher or the student. This has to be something which will be the norm in days to come. The moment you stop learning, it's not that you're going to be stagnant there. You're actually going backwards because the world is moving forward at a very great pace. So my closing remark is expected the unexpected and stay positive. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Sriramji, and I must thank all our panelists for giving so much insights and so much uh, uh, lessons and so many, I will say, positive vibes about that how our schools are doing and how we as a school system in the country are actually facing all the challenges and actually are working on improving our systems, learning, and improving the outcomes for our students. So, with this, I wish to again thank each of the panelists. I am honored to be here, and I'm virtually presenting speaker certificate to Mr. Srinivasan Sriramji, principal of the Mann School,
Thank
Shri
you.
Vidhukeh Vimal, headmaster of the Assam Valley School, Tezpur, and also to Mr. Prabhakaran, who is the headmaster of the Lawrence School Residential School in Ooty. Thanks for joining us. It was an honor and a pleasure to be moderating this session. Thank you so much. Namaskar to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Gupta. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you.